watching NBC Journal. Good evening. I am Basil Qasim and these are the headlines. Prime Minister Hamdallah arrives in Gaza, boosting hope of reconciliation. Family of Palestinian attacker told its house will be demolished. Dozens injured and a woman arrested in Israeli raid on Bethlehem village. Hello again. 3 Palestinians, including an 11-year-old boy, were injured on Monday evening when Israeli occupation forces raided Shafat refugee camp in occupied East Jerusalem, sparking violent clashes. The Palestinian Red Crescent said that the child was evacuated in a moderate condition to Israel's Hadassah Medical Center in Jerusalem after Israeli occupation forces shot him in the forehead with a rubber-coated steel bullet. A man in his 60s and another resident who was not identified further were also treated on the scene after they were shot with rubber bullets. Several others suffered from severe tear gas inhalation. Prime Minister Ramil Hamdallah and his government arrived in the Gaza Strip on Monday, boosting hope of national reconciliation after 10 years of division between the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Arriving into the Palestinian-controlled part of Gaza at Bet Hanun Erez crossing, arriving from Ramallah, Hamdallah received an official and popular reception. Addressing the crowds, he urged people to support the reconciliation efforts. The cabinet held its first meeting in Gaza on Tuesday morning. The reconciliation was facilitated 3 weeks ago when Hamas, the de facto power in Gaza since 2007, has dissolved the administrative committee it had established in March to run Gaza affairs and agreed to turn over power to the Ramallah-based Palestinian Authority.
Reuters reported that a Hamas police honor guard and hundreds of Palestinians, many of them waving Palestinian flags, welcomed Hamdallah outside the Hamas-controlled checkpoint down the road from the Erez crossing. In a press conference upon his arrival, Hamdallah described the visit, which was his first to Gaza in 2 years, as a historic moment towards unity of the Palestinian people, and said that the National Unity Government would start to assume its administrative responsibility of the Gaza Strip. The future of Hamas's military wing is expected to be a major sticking point in the reconciliation process. According to reports, Abbas has stipulated that Hamas must dismantle its military wing, the Izzeddin al-Qassam brigades, while Deputy Head of Hamas Politburo Musa Abu Marzouk has insisted that the brigades is not a subject of discussion with the PA. In addition to setting a date for holding presidential and parliamentary elections for the unity government, the rival factions will have to resolve the issue of the fate of the 40 to 50,000 civil and military staff that Hamas had hired since 2007. An Egyptian security delegation led by the Egyptian ambassador to Israel, Hazem Khairat, will be monitoring the reconciliation process. According to Wafa, Hamdallah's delegation will visit a home in the Shuja'iyya neighborhood of central Gaza City that was destroyed during Israel's 2014 offensive on the coastal enclave, before holding meetings with the various political factions. On Tuesday, Hamdallah is scheduled to head the PA's weekly cabinet meeting in the enclave, and after the visit, delegations will reportedly head to Cairo to continue conciliation discussions. Hamas recently agreed to allow the National Reconciliation Government to operate in the Gaza Strip and dissolved its administrative committee, which was formed earlier this year in the outrage of the PA, possibly putting an end to a national split in the Palestinian government since a bloody conflict broke out after Hamas won a landslide victory in legislative elections in 2006. Hamas said the decision came in response to recent diplomatic efforts by Egypt to reconcile the rival factions, while Abbas has been calling on Hamas to relinquish control of the small territory to the PA. Ayman Maani, NBC.
Envoys of the International Quartet for Middle East Peace welcomed on Thursday intra-Palestinian reconciliation efforts urging reunification of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. A statement issued by the envoys, who include Russia, the United Nations, the European Union and the United Nations, said it welcomes efforts, including those of Egypt, to create the conditions for the Palestinian Authority to assume its responsibilities in Gaza. Palestine Liberation Organization member Dr. Hanan Ashrawi on Friday called on the British government to apologize for the Balfour Declaration of 1917, in which British Foreign Secretary at the time, Arthur Balfour, promised a homeland for Europe's Jews in Palestine. Ashrawi said during a meeting at the PLO headquarters in Ramallah with a visiting delegation of British Labour Party parliamentarians, which was organised by the Council for Advancing Arab-British Understanding and Medical Aid for Palestinians, that the Balfour Declaration presents a painful tragedy for the Palestinian people. The ramifications are still being felt throughout the region. Secretary General of the PLO Executive Committee Saeb Awraqat said David Friedman's latest statement about Israel occupying only 2% of the West Bank, declaring that Israeli settlements are part of Israel, is not only false and misleading but contradict international law, United Nations resolutions, and also the historical US position. He maintained that Israel is internationally recognized as the occupying power over 100% of Palestine, including in and around occupied East Jerusalem. He concluded such positions undermine ongoing efforts towards achieving a just and lasting peace between Israel and Palestine on the 1967 border.
The new U.S. ambassador to Israel has described as alleged the Israeli occupation of Palestine in his first interview since taking office. In the interview, published by the Jerusalem Post on Friday, David Friedman also claimed that the U.S. President Donald Trump, who is his close friend, will eventually deliver on his campaign promise and move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. When critiquing the American Jewish community, he said those on the left are being portrayed as believing that Israel would become a better society only if the alleged occupation ended. Those on the right, he said, were seen as believing that peace is not possible. When questioned on why Trump had not yet moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv, Friedman said it was a question of when, not if. It's something we think about all the time, he said, explaining that the Trump administration was focused on the timing of the move. Palestinians and the Arab world fiercely oppose a move, and the international community has warned that it could end to fresh unrest. They hope to make East Jerusalem the capital of a future Palestinian state and have broad support from the international community. Palestinians argue that moving the embassy would prejudge on the most sensitive issues in the conflict, undermining America's status as an effective mediator. Former U.S. presidents have repeatedly waived a U.S. law requiring the embassy to be moved to Jerusalem. The interview also covered the issues of settlements. Former U.S. President Barack Obama's decision not to veto a UN Security Council resolution on settlements. Trump's phenomenal relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and the left-wing media's astonishing obsession with destroying the U.S. president. The Jerusalem Post also claimed that Friedman enjoys direct access to Trump and has already visited the president twice in the space of 2 months. Balqi Sadiq, NBC Journal.
The Israeli military government on Tuesday informed the family of Palestinian attacker Nimr al-Jamal that its Beit Surik home will be demolished within 72 hours as a punishment for its son's act. Jamal, 36, and a father of 4 children, last week shot and killed an Israeli border guard and 2 security men and critically injured a 4th at the entrance to the illegal Har Adar settlement located near his village northwest of Jerusalem before he was shot dead by other security men at the site. Israeli occupation forces raided the attacker's hometown and handed his family a notice to evacuate its house in order to demolish it within 72 hours unless it appeals the order. Several Palestinians were injured by live fire last night, and a woman was arrested by Israeli forces that raided the village of Doha to the west of Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. Forces broke into the village and raided and searched several homes, provoking clashes with local residents. The forces used live fire to disperse the protesters, injuring many of them. The exact number of injuries is not known yet. A woman identified as Amal Abdullah Saad, 52 years old, was reportedly arrested by the attacking forces during the raid in the village. Meanwhile, fire erupted at a home in the village after it was hit with an acoustic canister by the Israeli soldiers during the clashes. Israel imposed an 11-day closure on the West Bank and Gaza Strip for the Jewish Sukkot holiday starting midnight Tuesday through midnight Saturday, October 14th. The Israeli army announced on Monday the closure means Palestinian residents of these areas will be prohibited from entering Israel for work or anything else except for emergency medical reasons, but only after permission from the office of the Israeli military's coordinator of government activities in the occupied territories. Israel regularly seals off the occupied Palestinian territories during Jewish holidays. Israeli occupation forces on Sunday detained 6 Palestinians, including a female from the West Bank district of Bethlehem and the Jerusalem area. 3 Palestinians, including a female, were detained by the Israeli army in the Bethlehem area, and 3 others were detained in the town of Bet Anan to the northwest of Jerusalem. And Israeli police released on Thursday 2 Palestinian women from occupied East Jerusalem under strict conditions, reported Wafa news agency correspondent. He said Khadija Khwais and Hanadi Halawani, known for their activism in defending the Muslim holy site, Al-Aqsa Mosque, from Israeli intrusions, were ordered to remain under house arrest for 14 days, not to enter Al-Aqsa Mosque for 1 month, and not to travel or enter the West Bank for 180 days, in addition to paying around $1,400 in bail. The 2 women teach at a school located inside the mosque compound. The ban prevents them from reaching the workplace in the walled Al-Aqsa compound. Israeli occupation forces on Sunday prevented farmers in the town of Azzoun to the east of Qalqilia in the occupied West Bank from accessing their farms to pick up olives. The farmers said that once they approached their farms, which are located near the Israeli illegal settlement of Ma'ale Shamron, Israeli occupation forces and settlement guards ordered them to leave the area and not return until mid-October because of Jewish holidays. This is not the first time Israeli occupation forces kick farmers out of their lands, as they were prevented from accessing them several times last month. The Israeli military destroyed water pipes and a rural road serving farmers in the village of Atuf in the Jordan Valley. A large army force accompanied by a bulldozer raided the village late Wednesday and proceeded to destroy the water pipes and the rural road. Residents clashed with the forces and 15 people were treated following the clashes, said sources. The European Union's Political and Security Committee has appointed Kwaku Altama, a high-ranking official in the Finnish Ministry of Interior, as a new head of the European Union Police Mission for the Palestinian territories, EUPOL COPS. He will take up his duties on 1st October 2017, according to a press statement. EUPOL COPS is a part of wider EU efforts in support of Palestinian state building in the context of working towards a comprehensive resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on a 2-state solution. EUPOL COPS has been assisting the Palestinian Authority in building the institutions of a future state of Palestine in the areas of policing and criminal justice since January 2006. Now we have Amjad Al-Isa here with the news from An-Najah University.
Thank you, Basil. On Wednesday, September the 27th, An-Najah National University received a distinguished Chinese delegation headed by Mr. Lu Jinshong, founding chairman of Silk Road Chamber of International Commerce and president of Tang West Market Group, in addition to a number of experts and the members of Silk Road Chamber of International Commerce. The delegation was accompanied with Mr. Munib al-Masri, chairman of the Palestine Development and Investment Company, PEDICO, and Vice Chairman of Silk Road Chamber of International Commerce. Mr. Nihad Kamal, Pedagogy Executive Board General Secretary, and Mr. Omar Al-Masri, Group Managing Director of EDGO Group. The delegation was received by Mr. General Manager, Mr. Akram Rjoub, the Governor of Nablus, Professor Maher Al-Natshi, Acting President of An-Najah, the Vice President's Assistants, and a number of department directors at An-Najah. The visit aimed at discussing possible means of mutual cooperation in the realms of economic, cultural exchange in a way that serves the Palestinian cause through the Silk Road project. In turn, Mr. Janshong thanked An-Najah staff for their hospitality and talked about the importance of cooperation between Palestine and China. He mentioned that China pays great attention to education and aims to receive students from different parts of the world. On Wednesday, September the 20th, the American Corner Nablus, in collaboration with Biotechnology Student Association, held a test preparation session on standardized tests for postgraduate programs such as TOEFL, IELTS, and GRE. The presentation was led by Ms. Lina Nawas, a recent graduate of Mathematics Department at An-Najah and current MA student of Mathematical Engineering. Ms. Nawas gave an overview of each section of the tests and how to prepare for them. She also discussed which tests are needed for what type of graduate programs and how to apply for graduate programs. On Tuesday, September the 26th, the International Office at An-Najah received a delegation from Lillehammer University College in Norway that included a number of international relations professors and students. The delegation aimed at learning about the reality of Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the obstacles that Palestine encounters under occupation, such as the apartheid wall, settlements expansion, and military checkpoints. At the beginning of the meeting, Dr. Hassan Ayoub, head of the Political Sciences Department, discussed with the delegation a number of issues regarding to Palestinian-Israeli conflict and its root causes, as well as the complications with international conflict resolution theory when it comes to this particular conflict. He also discussed possible means of mutual cooperation between the Political Sciences Department at An-Najah and the International Relations Department at Lillehammer. In turn, Dr. Rami Qawariq, Director of Languages Center, talked about the history sources utilized by Western students and compared the facts that they offer to students' first-hand experience in the Palestinian territories. Dr. Riwa Sawalha, staff member at the Faculty of Fine Arts, participated in the Falling Walls Lab competition for the year 2017, which was held for the first time in Palestine. The event was hosted by the Unit for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Birzeit University, organized by the German Academic Exchange Service DAD, and supported by the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Falling Walls is a unique international platform for leaders from the world science, business, politics, and art and society. It was initiated on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Dr. Sawalha participated in a research titled Healing by Design, Creating Public Special Children's Hospitals. The research paper shed light on the significant role of the interior design and architecture in creating a healing environment in children's hospitals in Palestine. It is worth mentioning that Dr. Sawalha's research will be published by a prominent international journal as she is working on implementing the project in Palestine. And back to you, Basil.
Thank you, Amjad, for the updates. Now, Lina Ismail, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Basil. 3 U.S. physicists won the Nobel Prize in Physics on Tuesday for their work that led to the detection of gravitational waves, the ripples in space-time made when black holes collide and when other big cosmic events happen. Kip Thorne and Barry Barish for the California Institute of Technology and Rainer Weiss of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology split the $1 million prize awarded for their work in designing and developing the detectors that prove the waves exist. Science has made great strides in reversing vision-limiting problems in the front of the eye. For example, removing cataracts and replacing scarred corneas. Effective treatments for macular degeneration and other problems that affect the delicate light-sensitive retina at the back of the eye have proven to be much more elusive. But things may be looking up for the tens of millions of people around the world who suffer from retinal problems. Scientists are exploring new approaches to limit vision loss and even restore vision in these individuals, making use of advanced in engineering, neuroscience, and genetics. The latest results suggest that retinal blindness may become a much more treatable condition sooner than anyone had imagined. This Northern Hemisphere summer, researchers spent 2 months collecting samples from a submerged landmass known as Zealandia. As a result, we could gain new insight into everything from ancient life forms to climate change. Tens of millions of years ago, a landmass that's being referred to as Zealandia was largely submerged beneath the Pacific Ocean. This summer, a team of scientists set out on an underwater expedition using an advanced research vessel, and the results might yield brand new insight into Earth's prehistory. More than 30 scientists from 12 different countries were present on the 2-month excursion. By drilling into the ocean floor some 4,000 feet below the surface, they were able to collect 8,000 feet of sediments cores that will give us a glimpse into geological processes that have taken place over the last 70 million years. SpaceX founder Elon Musk presented his vision for getting people to Mars within 5 years at the International Astronautical Congress in Adelaide today. The spaceship, dubbed the BFR, would carry around 100 people into outer space, but at the end of his presentation, he flouted the idea of using it to fly anywhere around the world in less than 60 minutes. He painted a picture of people boarding a ship in New York to head out to a launch pad in the Hudson River, where they take a 7,400-mile flight from the Big Apple to Shanghai in just 39 minutes. The most popular long-haul flights could be completed in under 30 minutes. Musk said from Los Angeles to New York in 25 minutes, New York to London in 29 minutes, or Paris in 30 minutes, Sydney to Cape Town in 35 minutes, or all the way to Zurich in 50 minutes. In the annals of deadly diseases, few have plagued humankind as viciously as malaria. In ancient times, Hippocrates attributed malaria fevers to bad air. At one point, the Roman Empire directed those suffering from fever to wear amulets inscribed with abracadabra to ward off the disease. Today, bed nets help control the mosquito-borne disease transmission, and drugs prevent infection or blunt malaria's symptoms. But the disease continues to take its toll. In 2015, there were roughly 212 million cases of malaria and 429,000 deaths, and the disease has become increasingly resistant to drugs. Changing sea levels have a disturbing effect on sleeping volcanoes, says study. The grim prediction of climate change envisage a sweltering future where rising seas swallows the land. But in Earth's ancient past, receding waters may have triggered a different kind of hell. A monumental drying out that took place more than 5 million years ago caused the Mediterranean Sea to literally evaporate. And scientists now think this could have spurred an excess of volcanic activity in the region. This episode, known as the Messinian Solnity Crisis or the Messinian Event, occurred sometimes between 5.96 to 5.33 million years ago, when the Mediterranean Sea became cut off from the Atlantic Ocean. And back to you, Basil.
Thank you, dear viewers, for watching. My team and I invite you to watch us same time, same place next week. Goodbye.